Sorry about the interruption. So, once shots are fired at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, Lincoln calls for 75 volunteers to put down the rebellion. And two of these regiments of the 75 volunteers are going to be from North Carolina. And North Carolina really follows Virginia's lead in this. And Governor Ellis says, no, you're not going to use our volunteers to go support your cause because we don't believe in the same things that you do. And so, um, following South Carolina's lead, because that was really the whole rationale behind Fort Sumter being taken over by the Confederacy, is that Jefferson Davis, who was the president of the Confederacy at the time, believed that if the federal government still had holdings in South Carolina, they could still make a claim that South Carolina was, in fact, part of the Union. And in order to sever all those ties with the Union, Jefferson Davis pretty much orders the Confederate troops to take over Fort Sumter, which was, in fact, a federal fort in South Carolina. So, following South Carolina's lead, Governor Ellis orders almost all federal properties in North Carolina to be taken over by state troops. So then we move on to the final part of this section. And the question is, so is North Carolina united at last? Which is kind of a difficult assumption to make because there are still a lot of different people with a lot of different views. But the secession convention finally, the delegates finally gather in May of 1861. And like I said, they're still undecided about what they think they should be doing and why, and I guess the reasoning behind why they want to secede. So they have the old Unionists who wanted to base secession on the right of revolution against an illegitimate and oppressive government. And that sounds really familiar, or it should, because those are kind of the reasons behind the American Revolution in the first place, and how we got to become a country, or how we fought to become a country. And then there were the radical secessionists who had a simple declaration that secession was a right of any state, and because of that reason, North Carolina had a right to dissolve their ties with the Union, and that once they felt that their rights or the rights of their state were not being upheld by the government, that they had a right to secede from that specific government and develop their own government or join a different political organization. So in any event, after much debate, the radical secessionists' resolution passed and North Carolina secedes from the Union. And I have a quote from Reddy just to finish out this section, and it says, North Carolina's sudden ardor for secession never transmitted into an equal fervor for the Confederacy. And I think that's really important because it states that just because North Carolina sided with the Confederacy, it didn't mean they were gung-ho toward the Confederacy. They were never really fully on board with Confederate ideals and the radicalness of, or extreme political views of some of the secessionists of the time. So that's it, and it's time for Andrew. So bye, y'all.